Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on this wonderful Tuesday. And I want to thank you, Michelle, for being here with me.
Aw, thanks, Shane. I look forward to it.
I get so many messages talking about how this show is so helpful for people that are experiencing things. And so, yeah, people do appreciate us being here and having these conversations about what we're experiencing. I've had tons of headaches this past week. The Schumann's been off the charts. What kind of symptoms have you had this last week?
Well, I've been seeing more stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, I have
Sparks
too.
and flashes and things out of the corner of my eye.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I noticed I did mention it last week, but nothing's made me jump per se this week like it did last week, where it was like actually startled a few times and the heart rate picked up. But like sparks and flashes. And it kind of reminds me of like what you were talking about the other week too, where you're like, am I seeing that?
Right.
Or is it kind of like this superimposed sort of thing? Like, I'm not really sure, I'm not really sure if it's something, that like if there was a bunch of people sitting there that everybody would see it. I don't
Well, see,
know if
that's
it's
what
that.
surprised me because, when I was out and I kept seeing like this oval shape and then it would go away and then I'd see it again and it would go away. And then my wife came out to join me and I really didn't expect that she'd see it. I'm like, I see this like sort of oval shape up there. Do you see it? The sky was completely clear, by the way. There was no
Mm-hmm.
clouds or anything. I was actually looking at the stars to begin with, but I kept seeing this oval and it kept moving around. I'm like, is that something on my eye? Did I look at a light and it was sort of that
Yeah.
sort of thing, but it would go away and come back. And normally, if you look at a light source, it just fades away, that sort of spot, that impression on your lens
Mm-hmm.
that it creates or whatever. So when she saw it, and then she goes, "Well, I did see like an oval-shaped cloud, but it went away." And I'm like, "Well, where'd it go?" She goes, "I guess it just moved." I'm like, or dissolved. And I'm like, "Well, I've been seeing it appear and disappear over and over again, but I don't think she stayed long enough to see it reappear again."
Yeah.
But I couldn't keep it there, so I was just seeing it. But I know I'm not crazy because she saw it too. I
Mm-hmm.
know it wasn't a spot on my eye because she saw it too, even though
Yeah.
she sort of rationalized it away in a very natural way, like maybe it was a cloud that was oval shaped
Yeah.
and went away because it was very faint.
Yeah. I have noticed like where a couple weeks ago it was peripheral stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that I kept seeing like out of the corner of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas over the last week it's more being like right in front of my face, like
Mm-hmm.
or just above my eye line, but it's coming um right ahead of me,
Yeah.
sitting there watching TV, and then all of a sudden I'm distracted by seeing like flashes.
Yeah, I had one I was sitting here and I have a bathroom door to my right, but I keep the door shut all the time. But I saw a flash and I assumed it was something outside that, how sometimes an airplane will fly over, you'll see a shadow like that goes right over your house and your window, and you'll notice there a cloud or something. But this was like almost like someone took a picture or reflected the sun at me for about 1 second, and then I looked over and the door shut. So I'm like, what just flashed? There was
Right.
no window or anything. It's just darkness over there. But I
Yeah.
clearly saw something flash, more than like taking a picture flash. It was more like a second long, or half second long.
Wow.
And I looked, and of course, nothing was over there. And I just sat. I kind of got in a meditative state because I'm like,
Yeah.
is this like a light being or something? Am I going to have some cool contact experience? So I got in this
Mhm.
meditative state and sort of just looked over there to see if whatever it was would reappear. I was like, not allowing myself to be in fear about it, but just to sort of like, hey, this
Mhm.
might be a cool experience.
Mhm.
So I was sitting there, and I never noticed anything else. But I have been noticing other orbs and things like that flying around. on
Hmm.
film, like we had one last night that flew in front of Elisa.
Yeah.
That got caught on film, and then but just with my eyes, I've been noticing a lot more
Yeah.
than usual. A lot of activity.
Well, I've watched the videos that Dolly and Eileen one have both made with the orbs, and yeah, so I think we're seeing it more. Um, I mean, I know the veil is supposed to be thinner at this time. It's like the thinnest of the year, so not really surprising there. But definitely.
Tension, tension. Also, we were talking about before we
Mm-hmm.
started headaches. Not only the headaches, but the tense muscles in the
Yes.
neck and the shoulders. I've gotten it in the shoulders, like, when you're up studying late for a test and your shoulders are just so fatigued and tense, and you just feel like you can't relax them. I've been
Mm-hmm.
dealing with a lot of that, not being able to really relax my
Yeah.
shoulders and neck, just the
Almost
fatigue
sometimes
feeling.
feels for me like pressure, like as if somebody was like
Yeah,
pushing down on
exactly.
there, and it's heavy and and feels more weighted, and almost makes me feel like top heavy because of it. But um yeah, it hasn't been unbearable for me this week, but I mean, I do notice it. It hasn't been lingering yet. So I'm just kind of like sort of sitting back and observing things right now with the amount of energy and the Schumann that's going off, the way that it is, uh, and just kind of like, okay, wait to see where it comes out or expresses itself in my dreams or whatever. So
Well, Karen said she's
we'll
been
see.
getting the flashes too.
Mm-hmm.
She's been getting that too. Let's see. Megan says, I was seeing this rainbow flash that kept flashing in front of my face last night while I was watching The Time of the Sixth Sun.
Oh, I
Is that
also
a
want to.
movie? Or The Time of the Sixth Sun? I'm not
I
sure
don't
what that is.
know.
But the
No.
rainbow, I know this was probably a year before I even realized the Mandela Effect. Probably 2016, I started seeing flashes of rainbow, like in the reflection of doors, and
Right.
just out of the corner of my eye, and I look, and then it wasn't there. I'm like, why am I seeing rainbows everywhere? But this was like, I wasn't even, in this community to know weird stuff like that was happening. And then it was right around the time that I noticed rainbows around the sun, because I've been taking pictures of the sky and the sun for years,
Yeah.
and that was becoming new to me, the sun being bright white. So all of that was happening at that time before I was starting to really wake up and realize what's this about the shift. We're talking shift here,
Yeah.
about the shift. But you know what? It just brought, when you said the weight on the shoulders, the weight of the world, that brought to mind why we're actually late today, because I had this really vivid dream that I was sharing with Michelle, and I didn't really want to share it without some kind of translation or interpretation of it. And because it could seem alarming just at face value, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
really did have a really strong message in it. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I woke up at 5:55 from this dream, covered in sweat, made me
So
know
perfect.
that right. It made me know that it wasn't like just some kind of weird dream from watching something or whatever. So
Yeah.
basically, I'll kind of summarize it a little bit. I was in this cabin in the woods. It felt like my family was there along with other people. And I was outside, and there was this like older couple that was sort of the guy was like, angry and, swinging this axe and trying to show his wife, who seemed all timid and abused seeming. And, and he was being, really wild with his axe swinging it. And I was afraid he was going to like hit her. But I didn't, should I step in? Should I wait? Because he was about to leave. I was like, if he'll just do what he's doing and leave, I won't have to. But then I was afraid he's going to hit her, so I stepped in to try to help, and it just seemed to make him madder, but he ignored me. And then at that point, something happened. I knew something big was going to happen. Maybe the ground shook or something like that. And I felt like it was a nuke that went off. And in my mind, I was thinking, if I'm right, I should see a bright flash. And sure enough, there was this huge flash that was like 1,000 suns, almost like somebody took a picture right in your face, but it lasted, and then it faded away. I looked through the trees. I could see this through the trees. I could barely make out this mushroom cloud in the distance. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get in the house and like tell my family we got to get the heck out of here. So I went in and I went to tell them, like, look, a nuke just went off. We need to move the opposite way and all this. And then just then the wave hit, and the wave itself wasn't that bad, but the symptoms I started getting was, and it was like just almost like when a body part you get the pins and needles where you're like a leg falls asleep. But my whole body was doing that through and through, not just on the surface, like all the way down to the bone. And it felt kind of like electric shocks all over my body. Then I started getting these shooting stars in my eyes. My ears started sounding staticky and electrical sounding. And then I got this, I couldn't breathe, and I was getting this strong metallic taste in my mouth of electronic components frying, and I just couldn't breathe. And nobody was listening to me. I'm like, look, I'm going to die if I don't leave. So I like I'm running down this hill trying to make it into this river because I felt like maybe it would be better under the water, even though I couldn't breathe and, whatever. So I make it about halfway down the hill and collapse. And like, I don't make it, and I feel like it wasn't supposed to end this way. What the heck, but it didn't feel like the end. It just felt like we got to do it again or something. It was like, let's start over and try it again. So I shared it with you, and I'm glad I did, because you had the time I woke up was actually pretty significant. 555.
It's perfect. So we shared the dream with me, and the 555, right? So I mean, I got a picture that it was to look up the notes I had written last year.
Right.
On 555 and read what it says, right? Which matched exactly the interpretation I just gave.
Right, because you actually gave me the
dream.
interpretation before you got the numbers, which was that sometimes
and it was
we
exactly
can be distracted by all the 3D stuff around. We can take on the concerns or the weight of the world. That's why I'm just talking about the shoulders, because I'm like, that kind of goes along with that dream. The weight of the world, you're taking on more than is your responsibility.
Should I get involved? Is it going to make a difference? Does it make matter? Like this whole train of thought. So you're in this whole train of thought through this process that couldn't allow you to see the forest through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and that's like you're trying to say, I love how the symbolism comes up, but really couldn't see the forest through the trees because your mind track was caught up by the distractions of this drama playing out with other people. Do I get involved? Do I not? Do I try to convince other people, hey, something's going on? When really what you needed to do, and then the urgency to get to this water where somehow, even though it didn't make sense, you would be able to breathe if you got in the water, because that's getting into the flow, right? Because it wasn't a standing still water. It wasn't a lake. It wasn't a pond. It was a running, flowing river. Mm-hmm. And that's being in the flow. So by playing these drama, getting involved in the drama, your mind track was on a 3D timeline in essence. And I do think there was multiple things. I think there's about 3 things that were playing out in this whole exchange that you had going on. So the first one, really important, because this just happened recently with the Schumann picking up. So when the Schumann went
and it was going crazy during this dream.
Right. And this is what I do expect at these times. And kind of what I'm sort of waiting for my turn, is that these real energy experiences and with dreams. So even if you take out the nuclear scenario, just take that and set it aside for now. What you want to look at is the common similarities of other event energy, solar flash dreams, that people, including myself, have received, where you're actually feeling a physical energetic response. So there's the first is this blinding light, like 20, like everything just whited out. So that's a common theme, that you're just like, whew. You sense the ground shaking or something going on. You became aware of a vibration. You became aware of a change, and you felt that you start to feel that change physically, and it escalates. So then you got the blinding flash. So now, boom, you've been flashed. So I think that when you did experience that, when you're in the dream, take the story element out of it, there's an energy exchange going on. You're getting a DNA upgrade at that point.
And all of my senses were picking up on it. My hearing, my sight, my touch,
right.
Everything.
You start to feel that prickly numbness, like electrical charge through, so much so that you even had that taste in your mouth, which I think is interesting, because I've talked about too, like where you can feel it in your teeth.
Yeah,
where you
very
metallic taste. You are really getting a DNA
Hmm.
upgrade, download, an energy blast. And that's a great example of how you can experience that in dreams. So take the story aspect out of it, the physical things that you were going through, also this breathing that you couldn't breathe. This is one thing I think is interesting that comes up too, and I've experienced this, really goes into this deep focus, like the only thing that matters
Is
is I
breathing.
have to breathe. That's
Hmm.
the only thing that I
And
have to,
nobody
like,
thinks
you
I
just
need
had
to.
to get to that room because I can't breathe. I
And
can't
nobody
breathe right
thinks, let me jump in the water. I can't breathe. That makes no sense at all.
now. But it
But it
doesn't,
made
because
perfect sense, you know,
it represents the flow, right?
the flow.
And being in the the energy flow, and
Hmm.
letting go of that thinking mind that's trying to help control a situation, or do I need to control this situation or not? But anyways, that's the story side of it. I do want to impress the fact that I think it's a great example of a DNA activation upgrade,
Hmm.
energy exchange within the dream, and how you physically were feeling that and experiencing that. You're really checking off all the bells on that. So that's one thing aside.
What?
Then there's the storyline, right? Number
Hmm.
two is the storyline dynamics, which is telling you, you know, um, like you said, you kind of knew your family was there, but you weren't having a direct, they weren't like right in front of you. So it's just kind of an example
Even when I
of
went in the
family
house to warn
connections.
them, I
Yeah.
never saw them or anything. It was like I just had a knowing. It was like that. Don't focus on that part of the dream because
It was a worry in the back of your head, almost in a sense. Well, do I have to address that? Do I have to look at that? Do I have to be concerned? And the dynamics, of this couple, and do you want to get involved in that? And you say something, and then
and it only made it a little worse. So it
it
would have
only
been
makes it
better.
worse. And then you're burning time, or really the distraction of getting involved in those things and these other people's individual experiences only held you back
Getting in the
from
flow.
being
I
in
would
a
have
better
definitely
state
gotten the
yourself
flow if
if
I
you
wouldn't have been
hadn't been
involved with
held
all
up
that.
by all the BS.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Okay. And then the third thing I think that happened, possibly, is showing you what we have as far as collapsing timelines possibly now. And I think it's an interesting example of how you were aware that you were closing out there was a closing out of a scenario.
It wasn't the end, definitely.
Went through it, didn't work. Okay, but you know what? We're gonna to do that better
Respawn or whatever.
next
Right.
respawn, exactly, respawn, and do it again. So I think it also represented showing you're picking up on more collapsing timelines. And
Hmm.
I think it's interesting this week we have the al Baghdadi getting killed, and I think that we're seeing that, with your troops coming home, and there's no impending war like there said there was going to be 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right?
Hmm.
That's not hanging. North Korea is going to, those things aren't they're stepping, those timelines are closing. I think there's not, those possibilities are really evaporating. So I think that you were tapping in sort of collective conscious timeline as
Hmm.
well, and see the results of that being possibly played out this week,
Yeah,
as
because
far as,
nobody else was affected by it. That was the weird thing. I got to a point where I'm like, look, I'm going to die if I don't get out of here. Sorry. And I just ended up leaving,
yeah,
because nobody else was being affected by it, but I was. And if it
just
had actually been a nuke, everybody would have been freaking out. And we were
yeah,
talking about how it was sort of a flip of some of the other event dreams where you're calm, but everyone else is
else is
sort of
freaking
chaotic
out.
around. Right. So that was kind of strange.
A flip on the dynamic there.
Can you
And
read your, what you got?
oh yeah, so after we did that, went over that, when he mentioned about being the 555, so I got it intuitively to look at what I wrote. I knew that I had written down a bunch of angel number messages, um, like last year. Sorry,
They
dude.
gave me chills when you read it. It was,
Oh,
it's,
here it is. Just a short blurb, but 555. Let go and go with the flow. Major life changes are divinely inspired in order to align with divine purpose. Right? So that
mhm.
major event happened, was inspired, that nuclear thing, was to push you into the flow, to push you to get you off your never mind them, never mind any of that hustle, get in the flow, right?
Exactly.
Let
The
go and
flow of
go.
the river, because that's so beautiful. Because like I said, it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
pond, or like you were saying, it wasn't a lake or a pond. It was a river. It
Mm-hmm.
was a flowing river,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I made it like halfway down the hill to it.
Yeah.
But I would have made it if I wasn't slowed up by worrying
So
about everybody else.
right. And there are like there was an event, there was a major life change that occurred. Like
Mm-hmm.
however you want to look at it, whether it was nuclear blast or whatever it was a major life change that was divinely inspired to push you towards your divine life purpose, right? But it's also
Mm-hmm.
a message, so a message from your angels to let go of what no longer serves you. So you may receive enlightened abundance that serves your higher purpose.
That's
Serves your higher
beautiful.
purpose.
So
So
yeah, when you said go with the flow or whatever, and then
it
let's
was right
see,
there. Yeah. Let's go with the flow. Yeah, let it
and then
go.
if you look up 555, it says a
Let
message
it
from your angels that it's time to let go of the old that is no longer positively serving you. Trust that they will be replaced with better. Release old doubts, fears, and perceived obstacles. And if any feeling of fear or confusion, ask for support from your guidance. So
Yeah.
it doesn't say the
So there
flow
you
thing
go.
like what you got, which was beautiful. So that was
Hmm.
together. That's pretty much saying the same thing. But I think the way you're saying get in the flow or whatever, that's just like awesome, because that's exactly what I was trying to do to be able to breathe. Go
Yeah,
underwater and get in
yeah,
the flow of the
yeah,
river.
yeah, yeah. I got images too from dreams I had to correspond with that too, about being in the river and this whole breathing underwater thing, and just going with the flow, not even try to control my own breathing. Uh, so this really, it's a real surrender and letting go to
And it
what you
should have been
can't,
a
surrender to let go of what you can't control.
yeah, it should have been a nightmare, but it wasn't. It was, even though I woke up, it should have been horrific. I woke up in a pool of sweat basically,
That was
and
the
I was like,
energy.
yeah, and it was intense, but it wasn't like
Yeah.
it was traumatic on a certain level because it was so real, but it wasn't like, nightmares have that, just that sense of deep
Mm-hmm.
fear, and I didn't have the fear with it. So it was
No, which
real,
is
but I didn't
great.
have the
I
fear.
also, so I'm almost getting impression as well that the DNA upgrade, the actual change to your DNA that happened with the energy exchange, it's releasing an imprint as well. It's like I'm getting um that it's lifting off something that was etched into your DNA,
Mm-hmm.
like that was or that was coded in there, and this and it's pushing it out,
Right.
and it's pushing that old code that no longer serves you,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think you might find going forward even more expanded view of how you interact in any of these situations, like a new level of sort of detachment from it, because it's actually being, it's not just you just working this out in your mind to be a better person. It's actually you releasing these old codes in your DNA that are attached to that timeline, that story, that paradigm, that
Yeah.
are being released. Yeah. So that's really exciting, and I'm excited that you. It's a great example, I think, of that DNA change, what kind of experience that is,
Yeah, and you
and
would
how you can
experience it all
interpret it.
throughout your body too, with all your senses. That
Hmm.
totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at, you wanted to talk about this dream before we went on to do the show, because you weren't sure, because it can come across, um,
Yeah, fearful. Yeah,
however,
wut an
but
interpretation, it could,
now
right.
if you look at it, it's completely
Symbolic.
opposite that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It
So
was like sort of burning away the 3D, but those that
yes,
don't want to burn away the 3D, it wasn't
with the
burning away the
nuclear
3D.
truth bomb.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I know I love those nuclear truth bombs. Yeah, and it's literally it burning that out, and you physically felt that experience. Like that's what that feels like.
Like a
Actually
crucible, like
having your
purifying the
DNA
gold,
changed.
when they heat the gold to get to
Alchemy.
purify it and get the
You're
impurities
going,
out of it.
yeah, you're going through an alchemic process, which is a spiritual and physical process. It's not just a
Nuclear.
Yeah, it's not just a exactly.
We're talking about the nucleus of a cell, so we're still talking about a nuclear
Hmm.
event, but not a nuclear man-made bomb. So
Hmm.
that's really interesting when you think of it that way. And it all
Yeah,
started with the flash, or a knowing that something was coming, followed by the flash,
because you feel it, because you feel it in the ground, like in the you feel it
and
in the
everything
ground.
else was carrying on as normal. It was
Hmm.
almost like they weren't even hearing me. They weren't
Yeah,
even like, "No, we're not going to go. We'll be fine." It wasn't even like that. It was like they were just carrying on and just not even hearing me, and I just had to leave and
doing their own story
get in the
because it was
flow.
all because what was it really? What
Right,
I mean, what was any of that that you saw them not worrying or not worrying or
right,
but how much of how much of an illusion is that?
right.
Because you didn't even really see them.
No, I
You
didn't even
think
see
of
him.
the
It
one
was like a.
dynamics with the one couple, but it was more just an impression or something you thought you had to do within your own head.
Hmm.
How much of that was really illusion? Like they were these concerns, these worries, these concessions, considerations, all of these things. How much of that is an illusion?
Right.
It's not actually even in front of us.
And really, all at the end of the day, the only thing we have control over is ourselves. I mean,
That's
our
right.
own thoughts, our own actions. We can't control other people, and
No.
that's sort of. And I know this lesson, yet the dream was showing me that even though I know that, I'm still doing it to some level, right?
Well,
I
because there's so
still.
many different ways that we do that we don't even realize because it's not just about the bad intentions to control situations. No, we've got lots of good reasons to control situations as well too. So
Yeah,
we somehow you think because you can state that you're coming from a good intention, it's still a distraction, right?
exactly.
So I think it kind of shows that. And that's where that can play out with loved ones and family and, and those different things or whatever reasons we say. But a lot of it's illusion.
Well, let's look at because and this isn't just new for today, guys.
Mm,
This when I looked at yesterday morning. It was actually yesterday morning at 5:55 when I had that dream, and I'm not sure if it landed right on one of these points, but it had been doing this all night, so I was getting it. We were getting
yeah.
it the hit, throughout the night. But
And that's,
so
what it's a great example.
yeah,
And that's what often happens with these blasts, with the real accelerations in the dreams and then you see them play out in these amazing scenarios,
yeah,
right?
and it's just pulsating. Look at this. Even like here, you can see
Mm.
these pulses that these really short, maybe only a couple of minute long blasts going right down. That's
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And that's weird how this line stops at this point,
Yeah,
or
but
at least.
it's picking up. I'm trying to remember when I checked it earlier. I did check it earlier on Disclosure News. Oh, I don't want to fiddle with my laptop while I'm on here. But I think it was above 60 or above 80. I think it was above 80 it hit the last peak. 87 or something, I think it said. So
Let's
it's picking
see.
up.
I've been hungrier, I guess.
I started
Okay.
getting hungrier too. The last couple weeks, it's like, yeah. And
I
good thing
started
because mom's
getting.
been baking. So
I've been
perfect
getting
time.
hungrier, but if you remember, I said there was a few days I couldn't even eat,
Yeah, me
and
too.
so I've gotten hungrier than not eating at all. But I'm still not. My eyes are bigger than my stomach. I'll feel really hungry and then start to
I've been
eat, and
similar.
yeah.
It's just I can't eat the same. I can't eat the same amount still. I can't eat that much.
Hmm. But
But I've
definitely
been
feeling
more
hungrier.
but
Definitely.
but I've been more hungry. I've been
Yeah.
noticing hunger more, right?
Hmm.
Where before it was like eating,
Right.
what's that?
Right. Right. Like I'd rather keep doing my art or music or whatever, but
Yeah.
or not even really thinking about it is how it was for me. I was like, wait, I didn't eat all day today. I just
Yeah, am I
realized.
eating anything today? Yeah, exactly. To noticing, yeah, a little bit more, but still not eating like big full meals or anything like that. Just,
Yes, I did have a dream, Rita. You'll have to go back. It's kind of a long one.
that was a good one.
Excuse me. It was wild. I woke up, and the funny thing is, you think like I woke up at 5:55. I like look up the angel numbers right away, but I just felt like it was saying, look, you woke up right at 5:55. Pay attention to this. So I didn't
Yeah.
really even think any further. So when you said, when you're reading Get in the Flow, and I was trying to get in the flow of the river, that's just so
Yeah.
amazing to me. That,
Yeah.
not only that, how cool that was, but that I ignored it, the numbers, and didn't even think they had any significance. But
Ah, you're
I
just
know
waiting to talk
better.
to me.
Right. I know better than to think nothing has any meaning. What am I thinking?
Your
Everything's got meaning.
subconscious knew. It's okay. We'll talk to Michelle about it.
Yeah, that's why I was like, hey, can we get a hold? And we actually got together early, guys, and it was
Yeah.
like we were going to be early, and we were like later than usual. But
Yeah. Well, it was good. You know what? I love doing that, and I love doing that process, and I love going through the experience of people with a dream.
I couldn't wait to tell you because I knew you
I
you would
know.
have some kind of handle on what it could be. Because I
That's
was like,
good.
I don't know. And then I actually had my daughter that same day, later that day, was supposed to come over. She was coming from Oklahoma City, and then like it had been hours we hadn't heard from her. And my wife's worried. She's like, well, she was supposed to go home and then come over here, and I'm like, let's not worry about anything. And then that dream came to mind. I'm like, oh, that would be like a nuke going off, and like I'm
Yeah.
thinking, what if something happened? Because she had my grandson too, so
Yeah.
I'm like, don't go there, don't worry. There's nothing to worry about until there's something to worry about.
Let's
So,
breathe.
so it turned out my grandson had fallen asleep, and so she didn't want to drag him out, wake him up, and she laid beside him and ended up falling asleep. So she didn't answer her phone or text or anything because she was
Right.
asleep. So it all, it was no big deal. But it's funny
Exactly.
how you'll have sort of those vivid dreams and think, oh, was that a warning? And just I don't know.
That's a good thing to say too, Shane. I think why sort of you were like hesitating about telling the dream. You're like, oh, because you could look at that. Was that like a warning? Was that like a dire, you know? But it's perspective. Perspective,
It
really. It's how
sure
you
is.
look at it, right? So
Yeah.
it's when you can step back and you take the bias or that leaning out of it. You can
Yeah.
see a much broader picture and you can see more connections that way. And you just gotta sit back. Just sit back and breathe.
Breathe. And that's just like, when I got the message in 2017, just be. I'm like, what does that
Yeah,
mean? Just be. Well, what do you do when you just be? You just
just
breathe.
breathe.
You just breathe it in. And that's what I've started doing periodically throughout the day.
Just
We can
breathe.
tap into that bliss, that
Yeah,
perfection, that
it is. Oh,
intelligent infinity, and breathe it in at any point and get your vibe up. And
that's it exactly. Just slow down. You just if you catch when you catch your mind going down those, because that's what your mind does. And it's okay. You don't have to be frustrated with
it's
it, but
doing
you
what it's designed to do.
yeah, you can just sit, just take that, just breathe. That's
Hmm.
meditation right there, guys.
Yeah.
Not necessarily having to have, I practice for an hour and I sit in this
Hmm.
position and I do this and do that. I mean, that's great too. And developing your own personal practice is great.
Hmm.
So, but really is just about the ability to, at any given moment, no matter what is going on, to be able to just do that. No matter what's going on, to be able to do that. That's that's what mastery is. Just go and breathe, and then make a decision from there. It's not an action. It's like not but then you can move forward.
That's
Mm-hmm.
so funny that
If
you said that
even
because
required.
I get a lot of stuff like that where it's like, well, how am I going to respond? I'm like, wait a minute, I don't really have to do anything, you
Who
know?
says you have to respond?
Right,
Who's talking right now?
right.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
real interesting that something that was perceived as being sort of this end of the world event was flipped on its head in a way, to let me know, hey, just get in the flow, just
Yeah.
get in the flow.
And at the end of it, you're left with, well, all right, so it didn't work that way. Okay, so let's do it another way.
Right,
Redo, reboot.
right.
Right. Because that's what we have. Like, we're not locked into that. You're not locked into any given story. Right? Past is past. You're right now. You're right now. Now.
So that's cool. Let's see. Okay, somebody mentioned cramps. A lot of people
Mm,
getting cramps. Even my wife was telling me, like, holding a tray, and she's got to roll silverware. She's a waitress, so she was explaining how her hands have been cramping a lot and stuff. So I had already gotten some potassium, so we've
mm-hmm.
still been taking the potassium because even last night I crawled in the bed and my toes started cramping. I'm like, oh my gosh, again?
Mm-hmm.
So I got up
Yeah,
and took some because I don't want to wake up to a Charlie horse in my leg or something. But
yeah, that's what I was noticing that a couple weeks ago. I was getting these like sharp shooting cramp, like I hit my funny bone, or like like oh, like where's that coming from? Zinging through and down. So but East
muscle
Step.
twitches too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, muscle twitches. That's
Yeah.
another thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I haven't for me. It's been kind of quiet. I'm kind of like just waiting, and I know it'll pick up. So we'll see. But mm-hmm.
Well, this is I think back at the last real vivid dream I had, and it was right around. It was in November last year. So that's strange. I guess this is the time of the year for me to get dreams that
Do you
mean
find
something.
peak? I do find peak times like where I would look at the cycles of July.
Yes,
Um,
magnesium is super important, but
mhm,
potassium super important too. That's what we were actually talking about last week because Megan went in, thought she was
mhm.
having a heart attack, and it ended up being potassium, super low in potassium. So, and I think if you're waking up in sweats, then potassium's the route you should go. Heart
Mhm,
palpitations,
mhm,
magnesium. That's just my experience.
mhm. Yeah, well, I think you'll find a lot of those symptoms correspond with increased solar winds and
Mm-hmm.
CMEs, which I do believe is bringing in these like codes and energies as well too, and that's just one of the side effects so that you may experience. So don't panic. Just breathe.
Mm-hmm. Just breathe, be aware.
Breathe. Hmm.
So you guys can chime in with any if we haven't covered any symptoms, just so other people that might be
Yeah,
experiencing
that's
anything.
exactly because you know what, we all pop off different things at different times. Because
Right.
we're all different, but there can be a lot of common things at certain times going around. So, hmm,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
the other thing that I wanted to go back to was sort of this overlay that you get sometimes with your vision and seeing things,
Hmm.
and that's really ramped up. And I thought, man, if that gets really bad and you're like seeing light beings on the road, and I don't know, is that someone
Like
crossing the road or is that a ghost or you
on
know what I'm saying?
our new normal a few years from now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I have been feeling like I've been getting messages about preparation for a very different way of seeing things on a
Mm-hmm.
continued and the preparation for that is picking up. So, yeah. And again, because the other message I've been getting over the last few weeks again too is this change coming like a thief in the night. Uh happening very very quickly. So, like with your dream, like you're just going about your business, you're worried about this or that, doing the other thing, and then boom. Um, yeah, and that change coming really fast energetically. So that's been coming up a lot too. And in some tarot, I've been started doing tarot cards again as well. And I'm really, really glad for that. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, I
hmm,
think that in the flow thing is really what Abraham Hicks talks about being in the vortex. You want to
hmm,
be in the vortex of the creation you want. You want to be resonating with what you want, not in
yes,
a, not in a futuristic way, but how does it feel now? And to stay in that vortex of creation because that's where you
yeah,
attract to yourself those things that you're resonating with. So if
yeah.
you're sort of, in these lower vibes worried about these 3D distractions, like you said, then you're just going to attract more of that, right?
Yeah, and I have been actually really sort of prompted in the meditation and sort of being really um, breathing it in, breathing in the gratitude, like breathing in gratitude within myself, and then breathing in gratitude um, for being able to fully experience um, the connection to God and love of God and love
Mm-hmm.
from God and love for God that I've felt when in those energy experiences, like when I did have the dreams and I was getting hit with a few of them were kind of some similar sensations and stuff like you were talking about, but what would come in is this overwhelming just awareness. It's like in every cell of your being, this awareness of the love of God and your love for God and the gratitude for it, this
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming gratitude for that. So I've been trying to breathe that in,
Mm-hmm.
that gratitude, because when I narrow down everything else, it's like, what is it you want to manifest? What is it you want to create? What is it? It can just cut it all down to that.
All right.
Really. If then like that's the ultimate goal. So I've been trying to um just breathe that in in my effort to manifest that even more into my life. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
breathing and the attitude of gratitude is something that I think we overlook quite a bit, because when you're really gracious or you have gratitude towards what you have, it sort of builds upon what
So
I was talking about, the trust. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because you realize you're not here by accident, that you've been taken care of, and then that just makes you more thankful. It's like the way we treat our body a lot of times. A lot of us are like, maybe if you're not happy with how you look, how many of you look at a picture of yourself 5 years ago, right? And you're like, oh, look how good I look. But you didn't feel like that then, right? You felt
yeah.
like, ah, I felt fat.
I
I'm getting
wish I was as
old.
fat as the first
Right.
time I ever thought I was fat.
Exactly. That's sort of my point. So we talk to ourselves all the
Yeah.
time. Oh, you're so fat. You're so ugly. You're
Mhm.
so out of shape or whatever. And we say these things to ourselves, knowing that the work of Dr. Emoto and that the fact that we're like 2/3 water, we're like putting that in ourselves all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like my legs. Are they carrying you where you want to go? I mean, are
Yeah.
you able to walk? I mean, there's things to be, you might not like the shape of them, but if they're working,
Yeah.
and even if they're like, maybe you got bad knees, at least you can still walk and you're not in the wheelchair. There's always, you can have gratitude for wherever you are.
You can find, and that's one thing that I did practice, um, 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, 2008. Yeah, 11 years ago. Like the hardest year of my life. And it's amazing how these things that strip you bare also like push you to um really change the way you look at things and change the way you do things. And I put into play of every single night before I went into to bed, of writing 5 things that I was grateful for that day, 5 things I wanted to be grateful for in the future, and then would take one of those things and write it out as an experience
Mm.
where I'm feeling that. What does it feel like to how does that feel to experience that? And I filled a book like that, and can go through it. I think because that's the real thing that propels the whole secret philosophy of this manifestation. There's a little bit more to it, but you really have to put the feeling into it, the
Mm-hmm.
experience, like you're already experiencing it. That's the fuel in the vehicle
Mm-hmm.
that gets it to move where you want it to go, and bring that into your life. So
Absolutely. That's
um
where you get into the heart, and the heart's the most powerful vortex that you're
that's
putting
where you
in.
add the magnet to it.
Exactly.
Right, it's like you create it, and then it's you kind of charge it, you can charge it, and then it comes into the field before you. But to really draw it into your experience, you have to add that magnetic charge of the heart, and it's the heart already having the experience, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's like a magnet, it brings it in. So what's come to me over the last few weeks, it was being prompted about this, that I used to write in this book, and I used to take the time to do that, and it was and that it doesn't always have to be that you're going through a really difficult time to put into practice with such determination something like that. And how can I do that now? And then if I'm going to create, be grateful for what I have, and go through that process when I'm doing basically meditation or throughout my day all the time, trying to bring it in. Um, it's also got me rethinking, the things that I would wanted to be grateful for in the future, the things that I was trying to draw into my life or create into my life and manifest in my life, from 10 years ago. Well, what is it that you want now? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's where the process came to, where I trimmed the fat away.
Yeah.
Where I got down, what is it really? You know what? Nothing. That's the ultimate goal. That's why my soul's here. That's what I want to focus on. So just breathe in that gratitude. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. I think Bashar brought up a really good point in one of his, I don't know, it was probably a month or two ago. He put something out and he was talking about how we do that feeling thing the proper way. We visualize it, but
Mm-hmm.
then our expectations can get in the way,
Well, that's
right?
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have an expectation of how something should
It's gonna
play
look.
out. And instead of really trying to figure all that out, just resonate with what it will feel like when you get it and don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about the details that get you there,
That's
you
it.
know?
Yeah, your mind has a habit of really, it's like, okay, so I'm right here and I want to experience this. And our mind just always wants to step in to say, well, you got to do this, 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 to do this. And you know it, like when that happens. And then what comes with that? Well, but this, but you can't, but that, but can't. And then we get discouraged and we don't do any
Or
of
we
it.
don't see a way. You know,
Yeah, we don't see
that's
a
the
way.
worst. So you're like, there's no way this can happen. And that's such a huge block we put on ourselves when we're
It
like,
is, because God's got a better plan than you could
right,
ever come up with.
right.
And so let release the control of that, of always having, it's not to say we don't plan anything, but just try to take one step at a time, do what's in front of you or what you're called to do at that time. Because if you're listening to what your heart is calling you to pay attention to at that time, and just keep going with that, you will find that you are taking care of what needs to be taken care of at that time to reach that manifestation, whether it looks like it or not. Like, you could be doing things that you think, that 3D mind would think, well, that's got nothing to do with how I'm going to get over there.
Right.
But the fact is, it ends up having everything to do with how you ended up getting over there.
Right.
So, so that's where we shut ourselves off, and, opportunity will be knocking at the door and we look through the peephole, and because it's not who we think we're supposed to see, we don't open the door. So.
And it's funny that you said that, because it's exactly what's happened on times when I was trying to manifest something and I had some ideas of how it might play out. Not rigid expectations like we were just talking about, but just some
Yeah.
ideas of, well, this could happen, this
I'm
could
just
happen,
gonna,
this could happen. You might have a half dozen things that you think might solve this issue, right?
mm-hmm.
And then it ends up getting solved and it's not any of the 6 things. And I think that's on purpose too. I think it's very
Oh
much
yeah.
on purpose, because it's
Yeah.
letting you know that, no, you thought it could be this pile of stuff, but it was this. You didn't think of this. It
Yeah.
wasn't you that got you there. It was,
Yeah.
you know, a higher
Exactly.
source or something.
And
Yeah.
if your mind is really set that you think that I have to do this to get to there, and having all that planned or worked out, you won't see even those opportunities. So
Exactly. So it's like opening doors. I've said, like, living your life through open and closed doors. Just trust that your higher self, source or whatever, will close
mm-hmm.
the doors that aren't opportunistic for you and open the doors that's going to lead you to where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll start noticing doors open, and you'll start noticing, if you don't walk through it right away, a confirmation like, yep, that's the door you're supposed to walk through. You don't listen, there's another confirmation. Like, okay, well, I'll walk through this door.
Yeah.
And, you just sort of live that way, because it's back to that analogy of the headlights at night. You only need to see
Yeah.
right in front of you. You
Yeah.
don't have to see the whole road. You just need to see your next step,
I just
right?
found a really funny imagery. It's kind of like those little vacuums that they have, and they get the whole floor cleaned, but they don't, like, what they do is they go boom, and then they veer off in another direction. They go boom, and they veer off in another, and then boom, and eventually it all gets done.
Right.
But as opposed to even the old vacuums where you're like, burr, 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 burr,
Right.
trying to get the edges.
Right. Yeah. Scuffing up the
I'll just
baseboards.
keep hitting it. I'll just keep hoping that the vacuum will reach that little spot, and I'll just keep,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of like, as opposed to keep walking into that wall and keep walking, I'll just keep, well, no, it's got to work this way. Just keep banging your head against the wall instead of just letting it take you where it may, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Riverside, California is okay, thank goodness. Yeah, our hearts and prayers go out to everyone around the world, but particularly what we hear about in California right now. Power being off, fires raging, and all that.
I don't get it though. What are they gonna do? Just keep turning the power off every time the wind picks up?
I don't know. It's
Like, this is, I don't know. I'm sorry for people that live in California. It's not easy. People
no,
just
not
trying to
at
live
all.
their lives, right? People just trying to live their lives. Well,
But but yeah, it's I guess it'll get under control sooner or later. We just pray for your protection and all
well, yeah, yeah. Move inland.
that.
Sorry.
Roger,
Maybe time to get off the California coast. Just saying.
Roger saying, "Oh right, yeah, yeah." And those future
the roof,
maps are
the roof is on fire.
Roger saying,
Somebody.
"Flow like water, like atoms bumping together." Yeah, it's very nano of you, Roger. Nano perspective. Let's see. Layers of music. I'm trying to see. I thought I saw a question here. Oh no, I wanted to share. Sherry says, it's faith, feel as if this happened. And that is something that we'd hear in church. It was like thinking those things that are not as though they were, I think is how it's,
Mm-hmm.
so if your needs aren't met, if it's, say, it's a financial thing, just have that feeling of your needs being met. And you don't even have to know how they're going to be met. You can just trust that if you need your needs met to perform some task or something and you're supposed to do it, it'll work out, and if it's not, then it won't.
I can promise you that every single time I have done that, I have been blown away by what comes up. And I mean, you've even look a year ago I had to move. Like there, you know what? It does, and it's amazing. What would come to me was far more than what I could have thought of.
Right.
And so many times, and just in an amazing way of being like, wow, like who could have thought? Who could have thunk that one, right?
Right.
Every time that I just let it go, it I was just blessed, really just blessed with being in a better situation and in a better circumstance, and or financial money that I wasn't expecting, and it's absolutely amazing. It
It
really
really
is.
is.
And I can promise that has really happened every time that I've done that. Even in some very difficult times. And yeah.
But I've found that other people have been reporting that's sort of been in this groove. You've seen it happen before, but how time is. We sort of can begin to question things, or well, maybe I'm not on the right path right now because it doesn't seem to be working out,
Oh
and
gosh, yeah.
and then we set up our own premature deadlines.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like you think, well, I had to pay late fee, so evidently it didn't show up in time. You know what I mean, or something like that. So you
Yeah.
put sort of these abstract time frames on things, but it doesn't really work that way. That's still an expectation.
It
So
is.
I think it was Alex when I had him on. He says he'd also been tested and tried in the trust arena, if you will, the faith arena, more
Mm,
than usual. Like, because you can kind of
yeah.
get comfortable with being faithful to things, but then, like I said, when your expectations aren't met, then you start wondering, well, man, am I out of the vortex? Am I out of the flow? And so I don't know. I just trust that I'm going to be where I need to be, and things will work out like they need to work out. And it does. You're right. It works out every time.
Well, sometimes just that the flow's just taking you in a different direction. You just weren't all of a sudden you hit a bend in the river. So you just go, and it's not necessarily something you did or didn't do or aren't doing right, but you can't see what's around the next bend,
Exactly.
you know. So yeah.
Well, fun times. What do you have? Okay, so you're still pre your event dreams. We're coming up on the time that you're going to be getting some dreams, but nothing yet, huh? Are you
No.
getting anything? You were talking about being extra alert, and I had that same thing where I went back to bed. I laid there for what I thought was 30 minutes with my
Mm-hmm.
eyes closed, feeling like I wasn't asleep, but an hour and a half had passed. and it was like, wow, I was just so alert for that whole hour and a
Yeah,
half I
I
was
know
laying
that. I
there.
know. I think you're almost in like a see, you're self hypnosis. You're self hypnotizing and you don't realize it.
Hmm.
I think you
That's
put
what it
yourself in
feels
a
like.
meditative state there.
Hmm. I
And
do
it's
that when I go to bed too, on
yeah, yeah,
purpose.
that's what you did. It's kind of like the same thing. So, like, when you have a BQH session and
Hmm.
people come out of it and they're like, "How long do you think you were out for?" And they're like, "I don't know, 45 minutes, maybe an hour." It's like 2 hours, two and a half
Right.
hours, 3 hours, right? You don't realize it. So I think that you're naturally putting yourself when going restive, you're putting yourself in a self-hypnotic state. So that's why time
Definitely.
went by like that. So you came out of it and you're like, what do you mean it was?
I
But
felt
you were
like I
alert.
laid there.
You
Yeah, I
were
felt like I laid there, listened to the fan for
yeah,
30 minutes, trying
yeah.
to fall back to sleep. I even remember consciously thinking, I'm so tired, I wish I could just fall back to sleep. And I just laid there waiting for it to happen. And it never happened. I just ended up getting
But
up.
you did though. That's kind of like that. That's awake, but you did go into that sort of
Timelessness or whatever.
yeah, for allowing for the rest that you needed, even though you weren't completely off, right? So
Right.
you did get the rest that you needed on
But that's
like a
sort of that.
button.
That was
Yeah.
one of those waking back to sleep moments when you typically will have some lucid dreams and stuff like that. But it wasn't like that. It was just sort of awareness, like you were saying, awareness of the room, my surroundings, and not really thinking about much.
Boom.
Just laying there, just
You,
laying there, observing.
nope, that's it right there. Because that's you were in a meditative state,
Yeah,
right? So it's becoming a more natural thing for you to do that. But that's it. You weren't thinking about much. So you just went, you just kind of hit that 0 point, just kind of, right? And time, what happened? And time sped up again, right?
yeah,
Because you were in a higher frequency state. You're in that meditative state, but meanwhile, your physical body was actually getting the hour and a half rest that you were hoping for.
hmm.
But
So it's probably just giving yourself time to integrate because I don't
mhm,
know. It feels like the mind it holds us back. That's why sometimes you just feel that overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, I just got to lay down. I feel so worn out and tired. And
mhm,
I've been getting waves of that too.
mhm.
But not so much that I actually have to go lay down, but enough that I'm like, probably need some more caffeine to keep going. But you know how it is though.
Yeah.
If you really need the rest, it'll knock you on your butt, and you'll have to go lay down.
Oh,
So,
it's you know what? That's it. When it's time to yeah, it's like somebody's pushing you down, like
right.
back and into the bed. Like I am so heavy right now, right? And yeah, I just go with it, and then you conk out. But I think when we're at a high, like a little more alert, like we are right now, we don't go into that like deep sleep.
Hmm.
But you did sleep in a sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
your
like
mind
my physical
kept
body, but my
your mind
yeah.
kept alert. But really, it was like being under hypnosis. You self hypnotized your
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's funny because that's like I remember being a teenager and going back when you had to go to the library and stuff, and there
Mhm.
was no internet, and getting self hypnosis books, and that's helped me throughout my life so many different times where I'm like, I'd go into the self hypnosis state to
Mhm.
get me through something, or whether it was like one time I had a horrible toothache. Actually I had dry socket. I had the tooth pulled,
Right.
and I didn't know it was bad, but
Ugh.
it was, and I had to put myself into that to take the pain away, until I could get to the doctor the next day or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's been times that it really does help, and you really can have pain control, pain management. So I know a lot of people that's in pain and you just need relief. That's a great way, to self hypnotize yourself. Now
Mhm.
I've like actually I'm like, oh well, with the BQH, people get healings and stuff. I've been, what it dawned on me the other day. I went through that 3 day period where I didn't eat and I felt horrible hot flashes and all that. Well,
Mhm.
when that first started, before the I stopped eating even, I was getting the hot flashes before that, and I took an Epsom salt bath, and in the bath, I did the thing that I do with my BQH with clients. I was like talking to my guides. I'm like, can you scan my body, find anything that.
Yep.
And then I went through that 3 day fast. So I'm like, oh my gosh, was that like my answered prayer? Maybe I cleansed or purged or
Yeah.
did something for that time. Because I was
Yep.
mainly drinking, like, I drank a few V8s in a day. That's because I was trying to get some vegetables in me,
Needed
But
purging that stuff out. Yeah. And I
right?
think being called to or drawn to have that bath and do
Yeah,
that process, like that's
right.
all. It's perfectly timed for what was required at that time, and you instinctively know to do that. And that's a practice I do all the time with the Epsom salts. Um, yeah,
And
I
too
have
big of a rush. Like,
whole
I'm a
thing.
shower guy, you know, just take a
Yeah,
shower and be done with it. But yeah, it
I
allowed
try
me to
to
slow
at least
down. I knew I'd
once
be
a week.
grounded too.
Yeah. Try to at
Yeah.
least just once a week at least do, or if I'm feeling that really heavy in the bones or feeling like it's starting to come in, I just try to
Hmm.
clean that out, clear that energy out. And I go through that I do meditate in the bath for a while and do that
Hmm.
process and call in the four corners and clear that energy out and do the visualizations. And wow, it just can really, I did it yesterday and I do feel great today because I did it too, knowing like with all that energy coming in and the Schumann's going off and knowing we're going to do our show today and just the timing of everything. I just want to just keep breathing it through, be aware of that energy, keeping it flowing, keeping
Plus
so yeah.
grounding, the whole thing with being in the water in the tub. It's a metal tub with metal pipes, so you're grounded
Mm-hmm.
in the water. You know, of
Yeah.
course, fluorinated water, but you
And
can
yeah, it's great to do
purify it.
visualizations or pull color in with feeling.
Hmm.
There's all kinds of great things that you can do. And then just breathe and then just sit in it. Just,
Hmm.
just and not do anything. So yeah,
I
that's
actually like to lay back, put my ears under the water like
I
this,
do
and then do
too.
the low,
I do. Oh,
and like
that's a good
feel
one.
it
And then
vibrate, and you
vibrate.
can feel it all through your
Oh,
body because the
yeah.
water carries the vibration through. So I'll
Yeah.
do that for a long time, and it sounds really loud, but I don't think you could even hear me right
Yeah.
outside the door. It's so quiet, you know. But
I will
yeah, doing
say,
that.
since you brought that up too, I will mention how much I'm noticing when I listen to the like the binary frequencies that I'm like actually feeling it through my whole body. That it'll start in here and it'll build and build and build and it'll flow, and then the tingle kicks in the feet, and then it kind of comes together and it just connects, and can really feel that just flowing all through. It's quite amazing.
You just made me
Yeah.
remember that I was laying a sort of alert in bed again last night, and I started feeling that tingling, peaceful, loving sensation wash over me. And I was
Hmm.
like, wow, wow, this is. And I remember sort of just being in awe by it, but I guess I ended up falling asleep. But yeah, I
Hmm.
was feeling it while just laying there, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of like
Yeah.
John Benny's session that I was talking about, how it was just sort of washing over wave after wave of these chills. And it wasn't like chills, but it's like
No, there's a tingly
a
sensation. I can feel it in
tingling,
my feet right now when I
right?
talk about it. There it goes.
And I've been getting it on the
Right?
crown of my head too, like someone's tickling the top of my head
Yeah,
a
it's
little
like
bit, you know? Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the energies. I feel like it's got to be right.
yeah. Like effervescence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All
Hmm.
right. Well, I guess we can wrap this up. You guys have been getting the tingles. You can, if you're watching this later, please do add your symptoms below. And also, we have a forum on the website, uotf.net. You can also get on there and share any of your stories or symptoms or contact or pictures or anything. So definitely sign up for that. It's a private forum. You just need to sign up and you can get on there and post whatever you want. And thank you so much for being here, Michelle. This is always a
Always,
fun conversation.
I always love it too. Thanks
I
so much.
love to
Thanks
talk
for
shift
listening,
with you.
guys.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
We'll
Appreciate
be
you.
back next
Appreciate
week, you
all.
guys. We love
Yeah,
you.
we will.
Peace.
Peace.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.